Why does your life start falling apart the moment you begin to change? Why do things break right when you thought everything was finally stable? And why does it feel like something unseen is slowly taking everything away from you? Most people call it bad luck. Some call it karma. But in the deeper layers of Dharmic understanding, there is another explanation. It is not random. It is not chaos. It is the silent work of Lord Shiva. Not the peaceful image you see in temples, but the force that destroys everything that is false. Because Shiva does not build you first. He breaks you. He strips you. He removes everything that you are not. And that process feels like destruction. It begins quietly. Nothing dramatic. Just small cracks in your life. A relationship that suddenly changes. A plan that stops working. A feeling that something is off. You try to fix it. You try to hold things together. But the more you try, the faster it slips away. And that is when fear begins. Because the one thing the human mind cannot tolerate is loss of control. You were comfortable. You had certainty. You had identity. And now, it is dissolving. But here is the truth most people will never understand. Shiva is not taking things away from you. He is removing what you are attached to. Because attachment is the root of suffering. You don't suffer because something left. You suffer because you believed it could never leave. That belief is illusion. And illusion must be destroyed. In Dharmic philosophy, this illusion is called ahamkara, the false I, the identity you built around things that were never truly yours. Your status, your relationships, your image, your expectations. You thought this is me. But Shiva sees something else. He sees everything that is temporary. And anything temporary cannot be the truth. So he begins his work. Not gently, not comfortably, but precisely, like a surgeon cutting through infected flesh. Every attachment you depend on becomes a target, not because you are being punished, but because you are being prepared. Prepared for a level of existence where nothing external controls you. But before that power comes, everything that weakens you must go. This is why your life begins to break in phases. First, confusion. You don't understand what's happening. Then resistance. You try to fix everything. Then frustration. Nothing works. And finally, collapse. The moment where you realize you are losing control. That moment is where transformation begins. But most people never reach it. Because they run. They distract themselves. They rebuild the same illusions. They chase comfort again. And they repeat the cycle. But if you stay, if you face it, if you stop running, you begin to see something deeper. You begin to notice that what is leaving your life was never stable to begin with. It only felt stable because you were attached to it. And attachment creates blindness. This is why Shiva is often misunderstood. People fear destruction, but they never question what is being destroyed. Is it truth or is it illusion? Because Shiva does not destroy truth. He reveals it through destruction. His third eye is not just a symbol. It represents vision beyond illusion. The ability to see reality without emotional distortion. And when that eye opens, everything false burns instantly, completely. There is no negotiation. No delay, only truth. And that truth is unbearable for the ego, because the ego survives on illusion. It needs identity. It needs validation. It needs control. But Shiva removes all three. This is why people feel like their life is falling apart. Because their identity is falling apart. The version of you that depended on things is dying, and death is never comfortable. But here is the paradox, that death is the beginning of power, because power does not come from what you have. It comes from what you can lose and still remain unshaken. Think about it. If your peace depends on a person, you are not powerful. If your confidence depends on success, you are not powerful. If your identity depends on external things, you are not powerful. You are dependent. And dependency is weakness. Shiva does not allow weakness to survive, not in those he is preparing. So he removes the dependency. And it feels like loss, but it is actually liberation. Slowly, you begin to detach, not because you want to, but because you have no choice. And in that forced detachment, something changes. You become quieter, observant, less reactive, less emotional. You begin to see patterns. You begin to understand that nothing is permanent. And that realization is terrifying at first. But then it becomes freeing. Because if nothing is permanent, nothing can truly control you. And that is where power begins. Real power. Not loud, not aggressive, but stable, unshakable, independent. This is the stage where most people misunderstand again. They think the struggle is over. But Shiva's process is not linear. It goes deeper. He does not just remove external attachments. He begins to remove internal ones. Your beliefs, your fears, your insecurities, the thoughts that defined you. Everything is questioned. Everything is challenged. Because even your mind can be an illusion. And when that starts breaking, it feels like you are losing yourself. But in reality, you are losing the false version of yourself. The version created by society, by fear, by conditioning. And what remains is something raw, something real, something you cannot fake. This is why Shiva is associated with destruction and rebirth, not as separate events, but as the same process. Destruction is rebirth. Every ending is a beginning, but only if you allow it to be. Because you always have a choice, to resist or to transform. Resistance creates suffering. Transformation creates power. And the difference between the two is acceptance, not passive acceptance, but awareness, the ability to see what is happening without reacting blindly. When you reach that state, something shifts. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" And you start asking, "What is this removing from me?" That question changes everything. Because now, you are not a victim. You are a participant in your own evolution. And that is when Shiva's destruction stops feeling like punishment and starts feeling like purpose. You begin to trust the process, not because it is easy, but because you see the pattern. Every loss creates space. Every ending removes illusion. Every breakdown reveals truth. And truth is power. But here is the final truth, the one most people are not ready to hear. Shiva does not destroy your enemies. He destroys the part of you that needs enemies, because true power does not come from defeating others. It comes from transcending the need to. When you reach that state, you are no longer reacting, no longer chasing, no longer depending. You simply exist in clarity, and that clarity is freedom. This is why Shiva is called the destroyer, not because he ends life, but because he ends illusion. And illusion is the only thing standing between you and who you are meant to become. So if your life feels like it is falling apart, look deeper. What is being removed? What are you losing? And more importantly, what are you becoming without it? Because if Shiva is working in your life, nothing real will be taken away. Only what is false, only what is temporary, only what you were never meant to keep. And when the destruction is complete, what remains will not be weak. It will not be dependent. It will not be afraid. It will be something else entirely. Something rare, something dangerous, something free. And that is the beginning of your true power.